And we are going live.
Hello, and welcome to the Women in Web3, The Future is Now. My name is Yasmin Senior, and I have my lovely co-coordinator, Jaylene Jacquez, and we'll be the moderator for today's session. Before we get started, there we have a couple of reminders. We have some amazing prizes up for grabs this year. The more points you earn, the better the prizes. We are giving out Black Girls Clothes Swag, and 12 lucky winners will choose between an iPad Air, Surface Pro 8, or a Dell Touch laptop. You want to make sure you get all this in the raffle so you can collect those points. You can enter the codes in the gamification tab on the left to collect your points and see the prizes. You can earn up to 100 points each session. We're dropping codes at the beginning and the end of each session, and we're sprinkling them in the speaker bios, the photo booth, and on the surveys. Surveys are more points because we really have value in your feedback, and we want to create amazing and relevant programs for y'all. So please take 3 minutes at the end to complete them. Grab a paper and a pen and write down 3 codes for the session. After the session, enter all 3 in the gamification tab. The first code for the session is hashtag DAO, in which you don't know what that stands for, you will by the end of the session. And don't forget the hashtag.
Thank you, Yasmin, for all of that great information. I'm going to follow up with a bit of housekeeping rules. So just so everyone knows, all sessions are being recorded and will be available on the alumni portal following the conference. If you have a question for our speakers, please type it in the Q&A box at the bottom of the video. Yasmin and I will relay them to our speakers during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you are experiencing any technical issues during your session, please click the tech support button at the bottom left corner of the screen for support so we can help you out. And for the best viewing experience, we suggest using Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge as your browser. So if you'd like to hop off and come back, just so that it's a better experience, you should do that now. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Yasmin so she can introduce our amazing speakers.
Yes, now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speakers, Melissa Henderson, Shauna Douglas, and Jasmine Burnson. Okay, so we can get started with the Q&A. And my first question for you guys is, what is your Web3 origin story? How did you get into this space?
Okay, well, I'll go first. Hi, Black Girls Code. My name is Melissa Henderson. I got into Web3 from the content and marketing side. I was a journalist for 10 years. I worked for Elle, Vogue, Huffington Post, and then I also did strategy, so helping to drive revenue for a lot of the media businesses. And I was really into innovative technology. So during the pandemic, it was a platform called Clubhouse, which I was an early adopter, which means I was one of the first 10,000 people on the app. And I met up with a lot of Bitcoin maxis, as well as NFT and Ethereum developers. And the rest is history. I started my career really writing about tech and the intersection of lifestyle, urban communities, and the way it affects our lives. And since then, I have a Crypto in the City column, and I'm also the founder of the Violetverse, which is a compilation of everything that I've ever wanted, was ownership in my content, as well as a sleek interface and a way to interact with cryptocurrencies in a decentralized way.
I'll go next. Hey, everybody, my name is Jasmine Brunson. I'm a data scientist, a DJ, a founder. My Web3 origin story came from the movie Dope. So those of you out there who've seen that movie by Shameik Moore, I'm telling you, I just resonated with his character because I was a nerd in the hood, you know, growing up in the hood, XYZ. And at the time, it was really hard to kind of teach people about certain things that I do, Python, C++. People just thought I was just like weird, you know, in high school. So all this to say is I really resonated with his character and the segment that he spoke with his mom about Bitcoin, and the way she just like asked the question, she was like, so we're going to be buying and selling things with math equations. That just like struck me. And ever since I went down the rabbit hole, went to virtual conferences in 2017, my first ever in-person conference was the Black Blockchain Summit. And you know, it's actually coming up at the end of this month, but my whole origin story into crypto has been through the culture.
Hello, my name is Shayna. I am a mechanical engineer by trade. I work in global supply management, so going overseas, finding vendors. I was at Microsoft making Surface, the tablets, the touch display modules, and then I transitioned over to Jewel, managing a bunch of different components, negotiating costs, checking the factories, making sure things are running smoothly. And then I met my now husband, who was into blockchain and NFTs. He was making digital collectibles. He had a token gated community that was giving each other support in terms of finding the right projects to invest in communities. And he turned to me and he was like, you're a woman in tech. Like, we need more of those in the NFT space. And so it was just a prime opportunity. This is about the last year I've been in this space, where I just dove in. He started taking me to all the conferences, which is huge, right? When you get to meet people in the community behind the screens. I met Jasmine through my travels. I've seen Melissa speak, I think at NFT NYC. So it's actually smaller than you would expect, but I ended up starting my own organization called NFT CLT, standing for Charlotte, because that's where I'm living. Because one thing I'm you know, have been working in strategy for my whole career. And the first thing I noticed is that one, these events weren't happening in, you know, in cities outside of the major hubs like Miami and New York. So I knew that we needed in real life, you know, community building and education in some smaller markets. And the other thing is, you know, I saw these conferences weren't catering towards collegiates, to Gen Z, to the folks who are going to be using this. So we've been consistently, we're coming up on our year anniversary. We've had been consistently putting out programming and education. And we're so excited for our Y3K takeover tour that's happening January 23rd, kicking off in Charlotte. So if you are a collegiate, you have a free ticket to come earn NFTs, do workshops. We have a Web3 Expo, gallery. It's going to be a great time. And you can redeem those NFTs for merch and for our concert celebration at the end of the conference. So I love the space. I will end with, blockchain can solve so many problems in this world, and that's what keeps me passionate about staying active in this community.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olayinka Odenrin. I am the founder of Black Women Blockchain Council. I come to you by way of over 20 years in the financial industry. I did transition into cybersecurity. And my origin story started when a friend told me about Bitcoin back in 2015. Because I was in the financial industry, I didn't really tap into the digital asset at that time. However, I did my research and I found out about blockchain. And it was the technology that I actually gravitated towards because I saw that there was so many different opportunities for us as people with the technology. There's so many use cases that could be built off of the technology, and wanted to make sure that our people tap in. So I created BWBC simply to educate our community about blockchain, to raise awareness about it, as well as to promote Black women in this space. I'm really excited to see all these wonderful speakers on this stage right now and the things that we're about to bring to you guys. There's several opportunities that we're creating. We're also creating courses to make sure that our women get to tap in, not only as consumers, but also developers. So we have blockchain related courses, education, and also ability for you guys to build smart contracts, which is another phase of the technology where you're able to build so many different projects. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you all for sharing. It's so important and really inspiring to hear about how you all got to where you are. So hopefully our participants can ask a lot of questions because I want to know everything. But I think our next question is, many of us are just finding out about Web3 and wondering what the big deal is. What do you say to people who ask, why should women of color be pivoting into Web3? And why is it important that I get involved now?
I'll take this because I really love that question. Crypto allows all of us to participate. It doesn't care about your background. It doesn't care about all the things that we had to nefariously deal with in the traditional finance system, whether it's through predatory lending, it's through bad banking, high appraisal rates because of the color of your skin or your origin. I feel like with Bitcoin, it allows us to all participate. And the beautiful thing about this space is the technology is inclusive. The technology is inclusive. We might not see all that inclusivity from the industry side, but everyone can participate. And I feel like a lot of the women in this stage can agree. At the end of the day, Black women in this space, women of color, need to come to this space and kill it. We're killing it in this game. Despite all of the obstacles, we're killing it. And I think the beautiful thing about decentralization in my context and from the things I've read is a matriarchal concept. Decentralization in itself means that we all work together. It's an egalitarian style of thinking and technology. We've been working in this space in terms of centralized, identities and centralized structures. Like you talk about centralized storage and all these other things. A lot of the power structures that play, the big bosses, the big businesses are, pillaging people at the bottom. Decentralization in crypto and blockchain allows all of us to have ownership. That's what Web3 is. It's the ownership economy. And I think it's now or never when it comes to this space. And I'm not saying it as in this is a last and be all. I'm saying it as in let's be urgent. Let's be urgent. If you need help finding resources about Bitcoin and blockchain, there's some amazing books out there. One of my favorite books by Isaiah Jackson, Bitcoin and Black America. Another book I really love, Blockchain and Next Everything by Stephen Williams. There's tons of books out there. There's tons of excerpts, and there's amazing people in this space who will sit down with you and go one-on-one about the origin of money, why fiat money is not that good, X, Y, Z. So find your resources and find your niche.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Jasmine's, the wonderful things that she said, it really relies on ownership. And it's important for us to show up in this space. When the whole internet started, we had Web 1. And Web 1 was all about reading. All you could do was just read. You could read your emails and that was it. You couldn't really contribute as much. Web 2 allowed us to now contribute. We were able to write. And some of you may remember MySpace, where it really epitomized the whole concept of Web 2. We were able to write and create on there. Now Web 3, the whole concept of Web 3 is ownership. Now that we're able to write, we can own what we write, right? And we could take that data or that information and put it anywhere that we choose to put it. And at the same time, we can make money. So it's all about being able to control your data. And it's important for us as Black women to be able to do that. As you all know, when it comes to trends, when it comes to consumership, we stand as number one. We spend a lot of money on other people's expenses, right? And so this is our time to actually bring back that money to benefit us as people. So it's very important for us to tap in.
Thank you for those amazing, amazing answers. It's definitely inspiring to me in order to get into Web3. And my next question for you guys is, how do you see Web3 supporting the innovation in the future, particularly for marginalized communities?
I love to take this one. We talk about data ownership a lot in Web3, right? And what data ownership is allowing is for wealth transfer. Because if you think about the big tech companies, and we talked about a little bit about Web 1, right? If you think about the internet, what really makes the internet is the hardware, right? It's the cables, wires, routers, data centers, right, that are built up and support the infrastructure for us to be able to connect on the internet. So when we think about innovation, what does that look like with Web3? Cut to Web3 where you can start to own your data, right? You're making your own digital currency that is attached to that data and assets that are living on this decentralized internet. Now that we have the wealth, I think the opportunity that is at hand, or is that wealth transfer, but what do we do with it? And it kind of goes, it's circular. It goes back to that Web 1. what we're going to have to figure out is how can we use those resources we've generated in Web3 and translate that into real world ownership. So, part of decentralization is that you could set up your own computer to mine currency and to be a part of the infrastructure. How do we do that as a community now, right, to generate wealth? Because you can't generate wealth by yourself. That's a misconception. It takes a community in order to do that. And so when we think about the future, we really should be thinking about, okay, I'm in this space, I own my data, I have assets. Now, real world, who am I going to partner with to bring back manufacturing, to bring back land ownership for our people, right? There's a time the US was free. So all of those, problems that we see in America particularly, but all over the world, right? Let's be timely. We think about the Queen's death. There's a lot of talk about colonialism and the, effects of what that did generationally. This is a tool we have to start to solve some of those problems and connect and reunite together.
I also wanted to add that with like innovation, with Web3, we're still building it. So you can dream whatever you want to dream. There are hackathons that you can go to for free. I'm happy to share those resources afterwards where you can say, hey, I want to build a game on the blockchain and have it interact with my friends. And you could have a team to collaborate with you, build something like an actual prototype and get paid for it. So innovation is really borderless, and it's all encompassing. And so you could really think of the craziest idea, go to a hackathon, go to a meetup, maybe write on a Reddit board and see who else is excited about your idea. And that's how I kind of got in this space as well and met all these amazing women and people of color, because I just wanted to innovate. I was really tired of writing like 5 shoes you should wear, to the concert, like, or corresponding with New York Fashion Week, which is great, but it wasn't really innovative. And if you want a challenge, I think Web3 is the perfect challenge because we're still building it. The smart contracts might not be as robust right now, but you could just lend a hand and you could actually get paid for it. So that's one thing that I've also noticed too. I got a developer grant to build my own platform, and it was literally just filling out 4 questions and putting in the craziest ideas, and they're like, okay, let's do it because it hasn't been done before. So I think that's like the power of it. And I think with Black women, we are intrinsically creative, and there's a lot of people in the space that really our values are really heard in the space. And even if they don't look like us, they're really willing to help. So you could be innovative in Web3 because we're still building it. Short answer.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing how important it is, one, for us to get involved, and also all of the amazing opportunities there are for us in this space. On the other side of that, if we don't get involved, what do you think are the implications of Web3 on communities of color as it becomes more mainstream?
I'll answer that. I think the implication is that we repeat the same historical barriers that have always been in place. As you've heard from the ladies, that this is an opportunity for us to jump in from the get-go, right? And be able to carve out a space for ourselves, as well as carve out some protocols that benefit us as people. So it's important for us to jump in, but if we don't, we stand the unfortunate, circumstances of repeating some of the barriers and issues that we've historically have encountered. We know Silicon Valley, right? There was a time where they said that there was no Black people that was interested in tech, right? And so they used that model to basically keep us out and do gatekeeping. But now this is our opportunity to say, no, we're here. And this is the way that we want to see it built. Because if it's left to others, they're going to build it to the way that it benefits them and not necessarily think on a global scale. When we come in, we get to add a lot more to it and start to get them to think outside of the box, outside of their comfort zone, and be able to actually cater this whole space to everyone. And it's important for it to be inclusive and not divisive.
And just to piggyback off of that, right? You know, this opportunity right now, to Melissa's point and Olinka's, it's like we're so early in this space that there's a lot of room for innovation. We're not fully regulated. That means you can get creative with problem solving and getting around, you know, financial issues, you know, issues that were in the financial industry and all these different industries, music with ownership, art with ownership. And so it's imperative, as Jasmine was saying, that you see the urgency of the time, right? Things happen in cycles. So you're not going to see things, the energy moving the same way, you know, come the next time. And Web 1 experience, Web 1 used to be fairly decentralized, and then governments started coming together, institutions, they created frameworks and structures. And to her point, a lot of us were left out in that conversation. This time around, especially your age, you have so much power. You grew up with social media. So when we start thinking about social tokens, branding yourself, people investing in you and your skills personally, and you managing your own funds and not need, like, it's a whole paradigm shift that's happening. But the reality is there are actors and players who don't want that paradigm shift to happen, because that eats into their business, that eats into their lunch. And so it's really critical. I don't want to stress it too much, but it is critical that you just start thinking what your interests are, the industries that you want it to be in, even if it's fashion, tech, whatnot, and think about how blockchain can transform those industries.
I also wanted to add to that, blockchain is a digital ledger. And so that means that we have the ability to like copyright everything that we have and really verify it on the blockchain. So my mission has always been to document the spirit and personality of urban creators on chain. When you think about some of your textbooks that you've read, some of that history was probably left out from the Native Americans, from some, maybe your family history was left out. That's because they didn't think it was relevant to have that type of information in your textbooks. But now with blockchain and Web3, we could have, like, for example, my decentralized application, which is called a dApp. I'm able to document creators all over the world because I think their story is necessary. And it's on a blockchain called Flow that is used by the NBA Top Shot. So they can't erase this history because you can't erase anything on the blockchain. Another thing is Web3 is about community building. And a lot of us, if you're non-technical, you can get into the space through community building, which is essentially building community, having events, making sure people that look like you feel welcome to come in. And that's what kind of gravitated me to the industry, to things like Clubhouse, because people were excited that someone that looked like me was on the stages and they felt comfortable to talk and things. So I think when we're left out of the conversation or the boardroom, our ideologies and people that look like us aren't in the boardrooms either, because it's like assume that because we're not there, we don't care. So, you know, get in as early as possible, follow crypto Twitter, follow, download Telegram. I know like 16-year-olds that have their own social tokens and have made a lot of money off of NFTs. You don't need to, with a bank account, you probably need your mom's signature. With a MetaMask wallet, you don't need anything. So if you have a MetaMask wallet, DM me and I'll send you some ETH, but only for the people that are here. So we'll have to figure out how to verify that.
Yeah, if I can add some more, you know, as women, right, we live our life in a way that, you know, we're always thinking of innovation, right, and ways to improve things. And I know you guys probably have, you know, thought of some process that you thought was ridiculous. It could have been easy or simple or more effective, right? These are all the thought process that we need in this space, and we need it from people that look like you. It's really important because there's certain things that, you know, we gravitate towards, and, you know, certain things that we know can be improved on, that we can lend our voices to. Also about our community, because you've heard that word so many times, there is this thing called decentralized autonomous organization, right? DAOs. And so DAOs, you know, allows us to now participate as a group, as a community, in order to improve something. You guys remember co-ops, how the co-ops are able to come together collectively, be able to vote on something, and also improve that environment that co-op regulates. It's the same thing. A DAO is the same thing. It's a more upgrade version of a co-op. As a community, we can vote on governance. We can vote on the way that we maneuver and we structure ourselves. You may recall, constitutional DAO. There was a big frenzy that happened last year when one of the Constitution, a copy of the Constitution, came up for auction. There was a group of people all over the world collectively who came together to create the constitutional DAO and also give people across the globe an opportunity to tap into that in order to purchase the Constitution. And unfortunately, they weren't successful, but they were able to collectively bring a group of people from all over the place with an intended purpose of owning that DAO. Now they're pivoting and trying to find other means to work with that group. But something like that could definitely benefit your community, your block. It could benefit, your country. It could benefit so many different things, even schools that you go to. So it's something like that you need to start thinking of how you can show up, how we as people can benefit from stuff like that. Imagine if someone created a DAO for your block, simply to improve the block, to keep the crimes down, to keep, to keep food deserts away, and implements gardens. These are things that people can feel like they're having a hand in building and improving the community. And because of that, they get like a token. They get their voices heard, they get to give their input, and they get to feel like they're actually contributing to the community. So blockchain is bringing all of that, is bringing a way for us to show up and be represented.
Thank you for those beautiful answers. I know for me, I was telling a lot of people that tech cannot be inclusive if we're not inclusive within tech. And I think a lot is important for us Black women, especially, to get involved in technology. But my other question for you guys is, Web3 is a safe space for all of us, whether you're an artist, a storyteller, or an engineer. Can you share some career or entrepreneurial opportunities that exist in the spaces for the masses and especially for Black women as well?
I was going to say, this is Black Girls Code. So I'm going to assume everybody's coding. Everyone's a coder. Add Solidity to your tech stack. Add Solidity, add Rust, add Go, and tap into creating smart contracts. I think it was Melissa who said it earlier. We're very early in this space. And just to add those languages to your tech stack is going to help you get more jobs and opportunities into crypto, and then be around the ecosystem. Have your job literally pay for you to go to conferences and learn. I think that's the next big thing for us to go ahead and penetrate this industry, because a lot of these folks don't even know how to do smart contracts yet, and we're still early. And I think for me, I just wanted to say, we all agree that this space is inclusive, and it's just a matter of taking that step to educate yourself, right? So already dropped a few books. There's a couple radio shows, podcasts, YouTube videos out there. I watch A Gentleman of Crypto every week. And then I have a friend named Crypto Kenzie who has his own podcast. He did videos back in the day talking about Tornado Cash, you know what I mean? So it's just a matter of finding that niche. And someone said earlier that Twitter, crypto Twitter, is a good avenue too. There's some good value from that. Also, crypto Twitter can be a little iffy, a lot of maximalism is in there too. So watch yourself with that. But just make sure you ground yourself. Watch YouTube videos. And also, I think that the future of crypto in itself lies in the hands of the people. It's different from all these other industries that we participated in. This lies in the hands of the people who participate and the people who actually generate and create content. Olayinka, she said it earlier, right? Web 2 was user-generated content. Web 3 is ownership economy. So the content that we create, whether you're a podcast creator, a designer, an enthusiast, you like to sell lemonade, it doesn't matter. Put that on the blockchain, create an NFT, sell it to your community, give them rewards, make them feel hey, I want to stay here and I want to support XYZ person. That's how we create that peer-to-peer, that producer to consumer interaction and architecture. back like in Web 2, we were literally subjugated to the Instagrams, the Metas, Metas, aka Facebook. I'm gonna call it Facebook because mama called it Facebook. But like, that's the thing, like all these big data tycoons are literally leveraging our data just to create digital identities of us called data doubles. And that digital identity does not have anything to do about who you are and what you stand for. It talks about per se your proclivities online, what keystrokes you have, what do you purchase, what seasons do you do manic purchasing. It's actually very, very invasive. And so the three main applications for data mining, I always tell people, is like targeted marketing, online advertisements, and recommendations for cross-selling. That all involves one thing: money. And that money goes to the big businesses. Web3 allows us to directly serve our communities and serve our consumers.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add to Jasmine in regard to data. So there's a data platform called Dune Analytics, and you can go on chain and look at different blockchains like Ethereum or Arbitron. So I think with Web3 careers, like if you can demonstrate that you have an interest if you're a data scientist and you know Python and writing queries, check out Dune Analytics and put that on your resume. If you're a writer, start writing about crypto in a blog. So anytime there's an NFT collection out, you be the good go-to person. As long as you can demonstrate that you have an interest in Web3, people are going to love you. Another thing is, like for me, how I got into Web3 is through my VR site. So it wasn't like my education. Yes, it was my education background, but the founder to work in a startup was like, oh, I really like your VR site and I really love your crypto in the city blog. So just having those examples on your resume is going to go far. And just adding, I work with a Python developer framework called ApeWorks. So we have academy.apeworks.io. So we're teaching you how to deploy smart contracts onto Ethereum and other blockchains. It's totally free. And the video, I mean, if you spend about 2 hours a week with it, you'll be able, and you know Python, or maybe you might not know Python. A lot of things is copying and paste, just saying. So, get a group together and start learning it, start deploying your own contract. And then you'll see that a lot of opportunities are going to come to you because you're women in the space and there's no guys. And the guys know that. They're like, okay, we need to get women. Like, who can we connect to? So there's a huge opportunity to build your career and make sure you have those examples on your resume, or your Twitter bio or your Instagram bio. So yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of want to touch from a different angle. This space is about empowerment and giving you the tools you need to succeed and own your own data and be your own boss. And a lot of you, I'm sure, like active in NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. I was president of my chapter. All 4 years went hardcore. And the thing NSBE did for me was give me my first opportunities, right, in career. My first internship was with Visa, and then Microsoft was the next year. And one thing I would encourage you, you're in a unique time. They call it like the workers economy, right? It is this great resignation where people are leaving traditional corporate jobs, right? They want more of a balance. They want to, the thing about, I think traditional roles too, they kind of pigeonhole you sometimes. You could be a multifaceted creator, right? You're not just the coder. But oftentimes in certain job roles, you're seen as that. So I would encourage you, as you're maybe going to these conferences and talking to companies who are coming on campus, ask them, where's blockchain on their roadmap? Are they looking at implementing soon? I think about the banks. Bank of America owns a bunch of patents in blockchain, and they're trying to figure out how to implement. Now, this is where you start to critically think, okay, so y'all are a centralized entity. This is a decentralized tool. Where do I really want to play? What do I really stand for, right, in my career? Do I want to start on this side? There's a ton of Web3 companies, right? Marketplaces, the actual people who are developing DApps, decentralized apps on the blockchain, people who are doing a lot of things with token economics, right? So that kind of like you guys are doing with the gamification, but making that just an integral part of your internet experience. So there's all these opportunities, and you are really blessed to kind of be able to choose which world, or if you want to do both. I live in both. I'm a global supply manager making products in a centralized world, and I'm really passionate, have my own business in a decentralized world. That was able to be successful just because we're in this time where people do want women. People are looking for people who have technical expertise and can break down these concepts very simply. But definitely don't be afraid to ask the questions and really, get an understanding of how blockchain is going to affect the companies that you're looking at or the industries that you're expecting. And then also I'll plug Y3K Takeover. Like I said, the problem with a lot of these conferences is we have so many wonderful young adults in our community, 18, 19, who maybe didn't even go to college, but who code, who couldn't come to NFT NYC with us, who couldn't come to these places because it's heavy drinking, 21 plus. So Y3K Takeover, like I said, we're kicking off January 23 in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will have a Web3 Expo. So if you want to get in front of Web3 companies and Web3 organizations and communities looking for support and people, to hire and bring on, that's definitely something that you should check out.
Yeah, if I may add a little bit more to this, there are so many different resources nowadays compared to previously when I first started. As Jasmine mentioned, learning Solidity is very important because that's really the basis of all smart contract, and especially with the Ethereum blockchain. The Ethereum blockchain is very famous, everybody knows about it. And one thing that we've done is we've partnered up with Consensus, which is part of the Ethereum Foundation, to increase the number of Black women blockchain devs. It's very important. Right now, there's less than 0.001% of us that are Black women who are developers in this space. And there's a need for us, as you guys have heard throughout this conference right now, there's a need for us to show up and be represented. So what we're doing is we're creating pathways. We have 2 courses that are going to be released, and one is a non-technical course, which will allow you just to understand what is blockchain, like why is this important, and also be able to apply it to certain aspects of your life and, certain jobs as well. Because you don't always need a blockchain for everything, but there are things that are being built with blockchain. We want y'all to tap into why. The other side is the smart contract side. We want you to roll up your sleeves and actually get to coding, because once you start coding and understanding what goes into every line of code is very important. The security aspect of the blockchain within itself, the technology is secure, but when humans interact with it, that's when the security issues tend to show up, right? So we want to make sure that you guys know that you don't have to copy and paste, sorry, Melissa, but you can actually build it from scratch. And when you're starting to build it from scratch, you guys are going to start to think of different ways to improve the smart contract, which is very important because there's a need to improve it. But at the same time, you will identify issues that have historically embedded into these open source smart contracts that always leads to issues, and you will be able to address it. And also, a lot of projects are looking for smart contract auditors. And because you're able to build it from scratch, you now know how to identify issues from other previous smart contracts. It's very important for us to tap in, and we're creating that pathway with the subject matter experts that created the smart contract. We want y'all to tap into that as well. Other things are, we are creating an International Women of Blockchain Conference. And this blockchain conference is really to highlight women who are in this space, because you guys don't know, but people still assume it's a tech bro space, and it's not. There's a lot of women that are in this space that are building, that are creating, that are adding to this blockchain ecosystem that we're creating. And we want to feature them. This past March, we did 31 days of women-led speakers. Women speakers for all 31 days, 3.5 hours a day for the entire week, entire 31 days. We featured women who are in this space from all walks of life, over 20 countries, just to show representation and that we're here. We're taking that concept and actually bringing it to the DC area for 1 week in March, we will go ahead and feature all women speakers again. We're inviting all sorts of companies within this space. We're going to have networking opportunities, job fair opportunities, and we're also tapping into the metaverse, because the metaverse, don't want to leave that out, is very important in this whole ecosystem that we're building. And our people, it's important for us to show up and be able to represent, and also be able to either find jobs or create and get the right type of funding. So we want y'all to tap into that. And you can go to bwbc.io to find out more information.
And just to clarify too, we're talking about code. Each blockchain has its own language, programming language. So Ethereum is possible, but we're, it's the most popular, but there's opportunities to decentralize space. So if there's a language that you're comfortable with, like I've sat in and learning how JavaScript can be, a programming language on blockchain too. Solana has its own, Flow has its own. So that's just something to be mindful as well. You have different ecosystems to play in.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to add really quick. So going off what you were saying earlier, there is a network called the Blockchain Education Network I was a part of when I was at University of Maryland. I think anybody who's a high schooler or a college student or what have you, join the Blockchain Education Network, connect with them, great guys. I've been with them since I think it was like 2019. They flew us out to the North American Bitcoin Conference. So that's a good way to kind of immerse yourself into the conferences that go around, and also get your flight paid, or also get your conference ticket paid. And then also, just to go off of Olayinka, what she was saying, so I'm a founder in the Web3 security space. I wanted to push you all, as you learn your smart contracts, as you learn those languages, also learn how to audit. There's a couple spaces, bug bounty programs out here. It's kind of similar to like a hackathon, whereas you're not going to be pitching an app, you're going to be more so finding bugs in code. So it's called Code for Arena. Check it out, Code for Arena. I'm going to put it in the chat. And also Immunify. That's a great way to learn how to find bugs in code, and also get paid. And then they also will put you on a leaderboard, and you get that exposure from the community. And once you get that exposure, that proves your validity in the space. So definitely work on finding the bugs in code, because we've lost a lot of money in other sectors of crypto, such as decentralized finance. And now decentralized finance is traditional financial services put on a blockchain, like exchanges, funding, derivatives, XYZ. There's a lot of opportunity. We lost $16 billion in the past 2 years. So those of you who are going down that rabbit hole, learning Solidity and everything like that, also touch on auditing. And I'm here to support you. Let me know if you ever need any type of mentorship. I'm here to support you.
Thank you so much. I know that was a lot of information, and that you all have been dropping these incredible gems of advice and resources for all of our participants here today. I think we're going to do one more question before we move on to the Q&A portion. And that is just, what is a final piece of advice you have for someone looking to get started? And if you could share a resource that was imperative to your success moving from Web 2 to Web 3.
If I can go,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say that, this space is all about not sitting on the sideline, but jumping in. A lot of people have the assumption that they really need to know everything about this space before they even show up and participate, and that's wrong. When you're sitting from the sidelines and you're looking in, it kind of looks chaotic. But when you jump in and actually get your feet wet, you start to realize, oh, wow, okay, now I understand this. I understand what people are saying about decentralization. I understand what people are saying about communities. And there's a lot of resources. We've already dropped some of them right now, but there's a lot of resources that you can tap into and get that solid foundation. One more thing that I like to plug is Crypto Zombies. If you want to know what Solidity is, or, what exactly, this whole word that we're talking about is and how it fits into you as coders, go ahead and look up Crypto Zombies, and I'll put it in the chat. But it's a gamified way of introducing you to Solidity, introducing you to what goes into it, what exactly is it, so that way, that fear that you have about, I don't know, this may not be for me, you can really start to understand, oh, this isn't that hard. I could do this, and get that confidence that you need. And that way you can start jumping in and getting a little bit more information. There's a wealth of information out there. But as you've seen from these ladies and myself, we have communities that are waiting to assist you in your journey. So tap into it.
Can you ask the question again? I forgot.
No worries. Just could you give one final piece of advice to anyone who's looking to get started, or any resources that were really helpful to you in this space?
Oh yeah. How to get started. Research on your own, because a lot of these institutions don't really, like academic institutions, they don't really teach crypto. And if they do, you have to have like your prerequisite for comp sci. And there's some people who don't even study comp sci who want to learn more about blockchain. If you are like on campus and everything like that, see if there's a blockchain club in your school. And if there's not, be the pioneer, start it. Even if you're still learning, start it, because you're going to attract so many people that's going to support you. And then you can join the Blockchain Education Network and get you guys' your expenses paid when you go to conferences. And then in terms of resources, YouTube University, that's how I learned my Solidity smart contracts. That's how I learned. Like YouTube University, I'm telling you, it's so rich, the information there. And then also just going like step by step of why smart contracts exist, X, Y, Z. All you need that context to actually like understand that, as you're building, you as a builder have value. I think we've kind of lost that sometimes in business. It's like sometimes developers aren't even seen as like the gods that we are. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's always the biz dev people and the people who bring in the money. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the developers, if you don't have the coders, what's being built? What's the product? So YouTube University for sure. And then also just reach out and find your community. I feel like it's like, that's a very interesting thing to say, but like once you have your community, you have like that one set of crypto friends you're bouncing from conference to conference with. Before you know it, you're going to be like relatively renowned and known in this space, and also mingle with people. So that's my tidbit.
I'll go. So you may have heard of the term white papers. So when you're getting into this space and you're looking at blockchains and you're looking at tokens, there's many names, white, green, they've kind of iterated. The biz dev people took over what used to be very technical papers that explain the mechanism behind the blockchain and why it worked and how it was validating transaction. Has gotten watered down in the process. So just a tip, as you're evaluating projects you may want to invest in, or projects you want to invest in, i.e. communities you want to join, right? Because that's a huge component. The reason why NFT projects are accessible, or the reason why people believe in a certain cryptocurrency, is because of the community that's behind it. Check the credentials, check the Carfax. You don't have to understand everything, but it should read technical, right? I think about the people who are doing like progressive work in NFTs, smart contracts, the developers I know, they take it very seriously, right? What type of tokenomics mechanisms they're implementing, and they make it clear, like for their community, how they're doing it. It's not just a bunch of marketing tool. You're not just going to hear like, sure, like there's some key words. I think there's another one. That just people, it's like a lot of fluff, right? Oh, staking,
Shilling,
more money. Yeah, a lot of shilling, a lot of fluff. So just, I guess what I'm saying is get your third eye open. This space, there is not a lot of safety nets, right? And we're dealing with finances, we're dealing with data, we're dealing with your assets. So make sure that you are very clear on your kind of intuition. Get into like, does this feel right? Does this community seem like they have real resources? Is this a technical piece of work that has a strong foundation? And that I think will serve you well as you're navigating the space.
Yeah, I like to say in crypto, question everything. Like, just question everything. Everyone is a suspect to me until proven innocent, especially online, because a lot of people are synonymous. So just question everything and go into it with a curious sense and a curious lens, and you'll succeed.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This was really insightful, and I know that our participants have so much information and resources that they can take with them after this session. We have a couple questions, but first I wanted just to ask you all if you could drop any of the books or the resources that you shared during this session into the chat so that our students have them. And then we have time for 2 questions before we move on to our closing. So first, could you tell us what surprised you most about Web3 or blockchain as you were entering the space? And this question comes from Diana.
I think for me as a writer, what surprised me is that engineers are creators and they are writers as well. So I come at it from kind of a non-technical angle, but I really feel like storytelling has a huge part of Web3, and it's something that is missing because there was a lot of misconceptions about crypto prior to women getting involved in this space because we are natural storytellers. So that was like really surprising talking to the devs, a lot of the team. I'm pretty much the only female on the team, the only writer. So they really lean on me for copywriting and for storytelling and for translating their code into something that's applicable and is a use case. So I was really surprised that I could add value in that sense.
Was the question what surprised us in this space?
Yes.
I think what surprised me, honestly, was like, I think as a builder in this space or someone who is active in the community, I don't think we think about y'all generation enough, Gen Z and younger. Like, it blows my mind. Like, even when we talk about metaverse and things like that, I just feel like it's a little bit out of touch and not culturally relevant. But y'all went through COVID trying to navigate school, ending your senior years, trying to navigate your first years of college, like behind the screen. So, in terms of folks that we need to be, when we talk about inclusion, we have such a lack of inclusion in terms of like a younger generation. It's definitely a generational gap. So that's something that shook me and I'm trying to fix. I have a 17-year-old brother, so I've been onboarding him into this space. And man, y'all pick it up quicker than us. We onboarded one of the TikTokers, our local like social media influencer, gave him $50 in ETH. This man flipped it overnight into 500, like just doing a little after, doing a session with him and taking some back of the notes. So I really hope to see like you guys get more active and build your own communities and safe spaces. And I look forward to supporting that.
I would say for me, what surprised me is the variance in the spaces, like in terms of the groups that there could be like people who are just artists, it could be people who are devs, crypto bros. It's communities for everyone. Even if you feel like the industry isn't like that inclusive, you're gonna find your niche. You're gonna find your group of people that you rock with. And I think that's what surprised me, and then also how unorthodox crypto is. I went to a conference not so long ago by Storage Institute, and it was for founders, young founders in this space, young VCs, XYZ, and it was in Minnesota. And when I tell you that was the most conventional crypto conference I've ever been to, I mean, we broke out the conference and did yoga in the forest just randomly. I'm like, man, I didn't know I needed this. I'm all healed up. I heard the sound of the didgeridoo. My skin is popping, all this stuff. Crypto is so beautiful when you find the right people. I feel like it's about finding the right people. And I think Melissa said it, sifting through the madness, sifting through the chaos. It's some bad actors in this space. You have to do your due diligence and do your own research. But the best additive to doing your own research is knowing somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. They'll be able to guide you through the chaos, the madness. Buy Dogecoin is going to the moon. They'll be able to help you with that because there's a lot of bad actors in this space, whether it's the institutions or individual players. You got to watch yourself and always remember you want to accumulate crypto in the sense of like accumulating Bitcoin with a Bitcoin forward mindset. All the other cryptos, I mean, you got to do your research to figure out what's good for you. Polygon, Ethereum, XYZ, Tezos, but Bitcoin, you want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible because it's only going to be 21 million ever. 21 million. we're in a rush. So that's my last tidbit for you guys.
For me, I would say initially what surprised me was the fact that this wasn't just allocated to the US. This is a global movement that's happening right now. We call it revolution. We're shifting people's mind. We're shifting the way that we think and the way that we operate and do things in this space. I would say the same thing continues to surprise me because now we got the government coming in, right? They're creating their own central bank digital currency. We have all kinds of industry in this space. And soon enough, the whole entire world will be operating some way or fashion through blockchain. And we want our people to tap into that. So it's just the quickness of how things move, you know. We say we're still new, we're still young, things are still, you know, in the early stages, and it really is still in the early stages. But just by tapping in and being involved, you're realizing that things move in warp speed. And the things that you thought you knew is now different. Things are changing. Now we have, soul-bound NFTs, which basically companies are looking at creating a self-identity, a self-sovereignty identity ID, such as a driver's license. You may have your driver's license as an NFT. And soul-bound NFT just means you can't transfer it to anyone, so it stays with you forever. So things like that continues to surprise me in this space.
Thank you for all your insights. So I'm gonna ask the best way for our participants to stay in touch with you guys, and thank you all for attending. Also, before you go, here's to get the last two codes for the session. First, fill out the survey. You can find the link in the session description box below. Let us know what you want to see more of. And watch the roll call that will come up on the screen when the session ends for the last code. Also, make sure you follow Black Girls Code on socials and join the alumni mailing list to stay up to date with events and more scholarships and internships. We'll have career development scholarships sponsor alumni trips to Afrotech this November. For our panelists, feel free to drop it in the chat as well. But thank you everyone for coming. I truly enjoyed all your insight and I learned even more about my Web3 and I'm very excited to get started.
Yeah, and stick around for session 3, where you can learn even more and hear from even more incredible speakers.
Peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. See you in the metaverse.
Thank you all.
Thank you. This was fantastic.